And we got the team here around the table because we got to talk about this climate change. I feel like every day there's a new headline with this. It's hard for people to digest because we hear the numbers, but we certainly see the effects of the changing situation, whether it be a storm, the conditions. So what did you guys make of this?
Yeah, we're talking about this new climate report, right? This is the one that dropped this morning, and it was very concerning. And just my thought immediately is like, what are our children about to inherit? What type of Earth?
Yes,
it's really scary.
So this White House report, it comes out, what did you say, last one was 5 years ago?
Every 5 years, and it is, I think they did ramp up the tone on this. Brittany, what's your take, and then we'll chat it out.
They did. I was going over, just doing a deep dive during the break, and the one headline that really just struck out to me was that the U.S. is warming faster than the global average, and the effects of climate change, they are just getting worse in every part of the country. This is why it matters to you. So climate change, that's impacting your safety, your health, and wallet. Think about trying to get home with record flooding going on. And one of the big takeaways from the report is every fraction of a degree of warming increases the damage and costs of natural disasters in the United States. And we're talking about temperatures going up. Keep in mind that one of the key headlines over the summer, the record heat across the Southwest,
the heat
Texas,
dome, right?
the heat dome. We were spared, but we weren't spared when it came to flooding. Events. Think about September, Hudson Valley, and July. The drought is getting more severe. They're finally getting some relief across Louisiana from their record drought. And greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane are higher than ever. And those are released when fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas are burned.
Yep. So, and just another little addition here, and this is one of the things, I mean, yeah, we've been talking about this for 40 years, but to get the government to kind of put the strong spin on it when they try to make everybody happy most of the time is important that it came out this year. So 2023, we had 25 confirmed weather climate disasters where the losses exceeded $1 billion. We throw that number out a lot, but $1 billion is more than most of us will ever see or touch in a lifetime. So I just want to remind you of the Maui fires, right? So that because there was a drought going on in Hawaii at the same time that there was a weird storm position in the Pacific Ocean. Hurricane Idalia that went from a tropical storm to a Cat 4 hurricane in less than 24 hours. These storms are amplifying much faster than we've seen in rapid succession. We had one that went from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 hurricane in less than 24 hours. Usually that takes days. And then the wildfires in Canada, which were not a U.S. trouble until they were. Because the fires were so big that we had our worst air quality on record here in the city, a 480 AQI, by the way, which was the worst air quality in the world. So when we start seeing these events, and they're not widespread, they're happening. This is all last year. Then there's like 22 others. So when we start seeing these, we need to say, why is this happening? What can we do about it? We are responsible for handling a planet that is healthy to our children and our grandchildren, so let's get involved.
And then what can we do? It can get a bit overwhelming when you just go through the list of all the disasters. So with the report, the White House, they're going to spend $6 billion on climate improvement programs. That also includes climate justice, which is one thing that we don't talk about a lot. As you think about climate change, natural disasters, they disproportionately impact these lower income communities because it's harder for them to prepare and also to recover from these disasters.
And you just wonder, is it too late?
It's not too late, and it's never going to be too late. It's too late to stop the damage that we have seen, right? So we can't help in Idalia. We can't help those people. We can't help the people in Maui. We can't help those people. Now what we have to do is to help the people before the next disaster. So it's never too late to do that. That's why if we can get your attention and we can start making this an important conversation, we can help people, and it might be your neighborhood that gets helped before the next disaster. So is it too late to keep the science numbers from 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees? Maybe. But it's not too late for us to come in with plans that will help the rising waters and the stronger storms.
Well, good evening, everybody. Is it too late? Well, maybe, he says. Maybe. But Even though they were of course, filled with hopium, but there's a certain
New York
intensity and seriousness that I have not seen in the mainline news. And this climate report assessment that we're going to be going over is pretty darned amazing, Sandy.
It is. It's really quite a report.
Yeah.
We are going to, let me say hi to everybody. We have Kim here moderating, and Looney Tunes is moderating, and who else is here? Well, I want to thank you guys. Kevin's here, Sam's here. Hi, Sam. Tommyus, Make America Green Again. Sandigas, Poppy. I mean, there's so many people. CJ, it's great to see you all. Don't forget, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and like the stream so that it, does something, whatever it does. And Singing Way, hello, darling. We have a show together. She's coming on Tuesday night. It's going to be wonderful.
Fabulous.
Yes. So we are, Jennifer, why don't you give the rundown of what we're going to do like usual? And then
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy. Good to be here with you all tonight. So, guys, we are going over the 5th National Climate Assessment, and we're going to do some deep dives. And I have to say, this is a very impressive report. It's the 5th one that has ever existed, and they have more poetry and art, and they're opening, it's like I just felt they were opening their being to other frequencies, and more broadband, more art, more video, more expressions that really kind of express emotions of our predicament. So we're going to open up here with the Art Climate Gallery and dive into the Art Climate Gallery. Very impressive art. And we're going to cover this first section called Front Matter. And it has a very moving poem in it, which I will read. We'll dive into climate trends. Mm-hmm. Also, we're going to cover the national topics. So there are 17 national topics that we can cover, but we have chosen water, ecosystem services and biodiversity, and ocean ecosystems and marine resources, and climate effects on the U.S. international interests. So that's it, guys. That's where we're going tonight. So
we're
Sandy,
we're kind of covering what we typically cover. That's why we picked the topics we thought would be the most interesting. And we thought we would definitely start with the art and get everybody ready, because art is something we are all, art tells stories. Art is amazing. Art is something that is transcendent. It can change your mood. And what they did this year is they did the first art gallery to be featured in the National Climate Assessment. And they pretty much had 800 submissions. And their final collection features 92. So we're going to look at the award winners first. And, we'll take a little quick trip. This was an awards winner. This is 11 endangered species and their different ecosystems found in the western United States. This is an 11th grader. Isn't that gorgeous?
That is so pretty. Oh, my God, that's gorgeous.
And look at each piece, as the person, as she said, this is Talon, said she lives in Boise. And she hopes they come away with an appreciation for our Western wild places by the importance of biodiversity and healthy ecosystems threatened by climate change and habitat loss. And I thought that was just magnificent. I would love to have this hanging in my home. Yes.
It's beautiful.
Christopher says artists are the antenna of society. Yeah. It was really nice to have this in. And this is Catherine Cartwright. Now, take it as you may. This is the art. This person is alternatives. It's an aesthetic interpretation of 5 viable alternatives to petroleum based. So I don't know if how old Catherine is but she made it with a cotton paper and water-based pigment. So it's I mean, it's the art is beautiful. The art is absolutely beautiful. Yep. And that is the whole part of this. Look at this one. That's pretty wild, guys. This one is In the Eye of the Storm, and the artist I'm going to have to move a couple of screens. I can't see anything. The artist Storm. This piece illustrates the lived experiences of hurricanes, specifically Hurricane Maria. As the climate continues to change, catastrophic storms are expected to become more severe in the Caribbean region. Mirroring a local memorial, shoes follow the road to calmer places. So this piece is an overlay of lino cuts depicting the storm itself, the infrastructural impacts, and human impacts. So that's pretty cool. Look at everything in it. See, flying away in the hurricane. It's quite. Wow.
Ooh, kind of moving.
And they use the black and white medium. So that's pretty awesome. And we'll go down now. This one was Elevation Drive, 7 feet above sea level. The street intersection mural in Pinecrest, Florida depicts the location's elevation above sea level. Now, you know, guys, right now, what the eastern coast of Florida has had hellacious weather and terrible flooding, and so has Cuba. I mean, Cuba has had flooding all over the coasts. So this is kind of showing, above sea level, and this person used a lot of they mapped the topography of their community, and neighbors reveal an alarming reality: declining property values, increased flood insurance costs, failing septic tanks, compromised infrastructure, climate gentrification, and collapsing ecosystems. The socially engaged artwork is aimed at revealing a vulnerability of coastal communities to rising seas, sparking climate conversations, and catalyzing civic engagement. So, I mean, this art tells a story. This is magnificent, in my opinion.
It is. It's quite beautiful.
Because if you're not paying attention, and it's obvious these people are paying attention in their artwork. Now she's just looking, and what is she doing? She's a 10th grader. In her piece, she focused on air pollution and fossil fuels. So she shows, look at the back of her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her artwork, but she's in 10th grade. This is what they've grown up with. Broken green crayons symbolize the destruction of nature as climate change worsens. Wow. This is a completely possible future for our planet, with bumblebee death tolls rising due to climate change and clean water becoming inaccessible for the less fortunate. Without action, this problem will only worsen. These are kids. Look at this one.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Wow.
That's intense.
It's gorgeous. This one.
How old was this person?
This person. Oh, this was done in 2013. This James, he must be older. This is effects of human-caused climate change and sea level rise on the island and coastal populations. The people trapped within the composition, like fish in an aquarium. Look at that. They're trapped like fish in an aquarium. Oh my God. Isn't that beautiful,
so amazing.
guys?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
wow,
rich.
wow.
The colors and the emotions. Oh,
it is.
Powerful.
It is. All right. We're going to move down a little. This is Nancaro and Spruce Smoke. Quilted fiber. The fiber is a critical factor influencing the ecology of the northern boreal forest. Wildfires remove the duff and soil layers that insulate permafrost. And as the permafrost melts, it releases methane and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This quilt depicts a flashback of burning spruce trees inset into bare ground and dead trees smoldering after a fire. Look at that.
Wow.
What amazing, creative people. Yes.
It shows the root system. Wow, that's really powerful.
It is. I know we have a lot of people in the chat that are talking about, our everything, it's energy, and no matter the source makes things worse. Everything makes things worse, but I'd rather have art.
Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too.
So I'm not finding the negatives in this. I'm going to find the positives tonight. So this one looks like the kind of pictures we always use. The planet with all the stuff on it. The dark on the bottom is the fossil fuels. The top is this has to be a young
Wow.
person, their hope. Yep, 8th grader. This is an 8th grader.
Ooh, wow.
All right. So this is what the 8th grader wants to see.
Wow.
And in my art, I try to convey that we can help reverse the effects of climate change. One hand is erasing the pollution caused by industrialization. 8th grade, guys, the world over. And the other is redrawing actions to restore the Earth's beauty. I have always tried to help out the Earth, though through stream cleanups and more. I hope people learn from my art and that they can help change the world by just doing simple things like driving less, not littering, and maybe even setting up their solar panels or wind turbines. The effects of climate change are only in our hands, so we should do whatever we can to help. And you know what? I feel the same way in your community. That's what we always say, Jennifer, isn't it? You do what you can in your community because we really can't control the big picture, but we can sure control, where we live, the way we live.
Yeah.
And that was Ritika S. Isn't that something? 2023, and that was colored. That's colored pencil. I love art.
That's
I love art.
so
I love
talented.
art. Okay, now this is. Oh, look, this piece of ice is part of a project. Now, I can't read that whole thing. It's a piece of ice. The artist statement, climate change. This is Dr. Avila holding cut Antarctic ice core. Holy shit, that's what they study.
Wow.
This is ice core. Oh my gosh. And then she put everything on it in artistic language that I can't read. Climate change is compressed and conflated human and geologic timescales, making it essential to find ways to conceptualize deep time. This work seeks to make notions of deep time comprehensible through visual exploration of glacier ice, as well as other earthly archives. The project includes intimate collaborations with paleoclimatologists by having them annotate directly onto my photographic prints. That's really cool. A contemporary taxonomy of ice and climate. The portrait was photographed in a clean, cold lab at Montana State University. The ice is 10,827 to 10,833,000 years old. Now, that's really inspiring, actually.
It is.
That this scientist did this, regardless of all of you cranky ones in the chat. our best friends are. Okay. And here I'm laughing because you know what? Life is absurd. So isn't it? But look this one. Wow. This one is wild. It's Keep It Together by Tammy West. Artist statement. Texas and much of the western United States have been experiencing climate change-induced severe drought. This site-specific piece focuses on our collective climate grief. Keeping it together conceptually wills climate change and the drought to end by literally tying the cracked earth back together. I wanted this piece to convey the desperate situation that we are in by mimicking surgical sutures or stitches with red string and nails. If we must resort to tying our world back together, well, we have nothing.
That's very symbolic.
Yeah. And there's a few more. I liked this one. This is like from the 2000. It was inspired by the fire. 2017 fire. Look at the art in this one. Wow. It's just so sad, what when you realize what these artists are talking about. This was the 2017 Tubbs fire, and this traumatized her home. Wow. And in Sonoma, with breathtaking speed, dozens of lives were lost, and more than 5,000 homes Over the following 3 years, we experienced 3 more major wildfires. Once the burn areas reopened, I began to record the state of our beloved oak woodlands and my shock at what the fire left behind. Recurrent disasters, including ongoing drought, record-breaking heat spells, and unusually heavy winter rains, have wrought a new sense of fragility and responsibility after our naivety was crushed. Wow. It's tragic.
That's powerful.
And here's a ninth
it
grader.
Oh,
Yeah.
whale.
Yeah.
Aw.
The North Atlantic right whale is a critically endangered whale that inhabits the east coast waters of the United States. Human activities and climate change have driven down their numbers, this ninth grader. I hope this piece will be a cry for help, something that will leave people with a sense of urgency. I also wanted to bring hope. The whale is escaping the entanglements. Oh my God. This is what they're growing. This is the world that these kids are growing up in. The sorrowful situation of the North Atlantic right whales can only be solved by us, humans. And if we all commit to it, I believe we can do it. Look at him.
Wow.
He's standing in his neighborhood. This is Ellen Oil. She is a very real person in Milwaukee. Oh, this is okay. It's Cheryl. This is Cheryl. And Cheryl is very real and is a member. She works at a social services nonprofit and is a member of our gay community. I painted her to show her confidence and triumph over urban challenges. I like that. It depicts the density of urban life and the spirit of the individual in it. The power of the individual for climate change, social change, and personal change is embodied in this painting. Look at that. And here's, well, Jen, you'll like this one.
Ooh, that's a glacier.
Yeah,
Look at
but it's the last glacier. Todd called it the last glacier. This is woodcut. Woodcut. And for over a decade, I have endeavored to tackle one single question. In what ways can my artistic practice contribute to larger discussions and action that addresses the climate crisis? This artwork is a part of a larger project that documents the last remaining and rapidly retreating glaciers of Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. Who lives in Colorado? The artwork insists that climate breakdown is categorical while beauty remains. You know, I could do the whole show on all this artwork. I could. I want to show you a couple more because this one is really wild. This is one, you know, I could see me using this behind. I could see me having this one hung up too. That's awesome. High Tide was a temporary art installation by Carolina Aragon, inspired by Boston's original Marsh Landing a landscape to visualize projected flooding due to sea level rise. The installation represented future flood levels as a marsh of color-changing circles moving around vertical rods. So High Tide is a series of temporary installations designed to engage the public with the science of climate change through the unexpected moments of wonder. Placed in public spaces, the artworks provide site-specific information about flooding impacts through non-threatening embodied experiences. That is
so interesting.
These people are just amazingly. We saw this one already. Let's go down. There was a couple. Oh, I wanted to look at that. We're talking now. Wow. We're going to the drought. Okay, so
what
now
Lake Mead or Lake Powell?
Yeah. This is Drought's Edge Illuminated. The painting shows the beauty of the huge built environment and colors and forms of nature, but it also shows the stark problem of drought and overuse of water as populations grow, particularly in areas that are not predisposed to large human cities and agriculture. The bone-like wall of the shrinking lake should be a wake-up call to all of us. Tell me that we couldn't go do this. We could not do this whole show and come out understanding our predicament.
Yeah.
Really. By these artists. Unreal. And here, I mean, I want to go, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much more, but it's just, look at this one. Look at the red and the smoke. It looks like it might be, I thought so. Jackson County Industry by Casey Lance Brown. Originally trained as a landscape architect, I rework abandoned sites, invasive species zones, and decaying ruins as a way of navigating human folly. Oh my gosh, these people are amazing. Individual works juxtapose something highly artificial with something organic, and or something jarring with something reassuring. Forged from multiple medium format images, the scene of industry in a forested mountainous area combines landscape visualization techniques, infrared sensors with more traditional light photography, dodge, burn, composting to bring out atmospheric details and place the man-made and vegetation in high contrast. That is amazing. Look at that. Holy crap. Oh,
Wow,
well,
look at that.
so all of
Amazing.
you, I will say you should take some time with good screens. Don't look at them on your phone. Spend some time, because these pieces of art are they're just amazing. They're breathtaking. These people here's another 11th grader, and this 11th grader,
Jellyfish.
yeah, the underwater watercolor. The ideas that show the beauty and vibrancy of ever deteriorating oceans. Well, these kids quite know, obviously. That gives me a little hopium that the kids know and are really, well, a lot of the kids know. Singing Way
Yeah,
can tell
they
you
do.
that, our
They
friend
do.
here. But look, and here's a polar bear.
Oh,
The Arctic, looking at the ship, looking at a stupid cruise ship. My painting depicts a polar bear in the Arctic viewing a distant cruise ship. I was on such a ship visiting the Arctic Circle. The polar bear's look is wondering and poignant. The cruise ship seems innocent, but it represents another human incursion into this place of beauty. Climate change has already affected the area. The ice that allows the polar bear to travel and find food is shrinking. Bear and boat are on the opposite sides in this painting. We need to be on the same side as the bear. I'm telling you, this is
Wow.
quite. So we're gonna move on, because I could stay here all night with you, Jennifer, and just look at the pictures.
Yeah.
I would love to, but we got to move on. And we're going to move on to the front matter.
The front matter.
Yep.
So there is a poem in here, Sandy, that I'd like to read. It's called Startlement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by Ada Limon, and she is the 24th Poet Laureate Consultant in Poetry at the Library of Congress. It is a forgotten pleasure, the pleasure of the unexpected blue-bellied lizard, skittering off his sunspot, rock, flicker of an unknown bird by the bus stop. To think perhaps we are not distinguishable, and therefore no loneliness can exist here. Species to species in the same blue air, smoke, wing flutter buzzing, a car horn coming. So many unknown languages. To think we have only honored this strange human tongue. If you sit by the riverside, you see a culmination of all things upstream. We know now, we were never at the circle's center. Instead, all around us, something is living or trying to live. The world says, what we are becoming together. The world says, one type of dream has ended and another has just begun. And the world says, once we were separate and now we must move in unison. And that was written for the 5th National Climate Assessment Conference.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So if you want to take it away and tell people, if you want to read the whole thing or skim it and just tell people what it is.
Well, I'm looking, this front piece is actually very extensive, so I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
But just know that this fifth Global Change Research Act of 1990 mandates that the U.S. Global Change Research Program delivers a report to Congress and the president. And so this is actually put out by the U.S. government, and I was duly impressed. And, hardened doomer that I am, I was duly impressed by this assembly and this compilation that they put together for the fifth National Climate Assessment. And I thought they did an incredible job. So, there are many different parts of this report, and we're going to start to go through some of them, Sandy.
Yep. Yeah. And they break it down here. This is, Southwest, Northwest, Northern Great Plains, Southern Great Plains, Southeast, Midwest, Northeast, U.S. Caribbean. So, and it's quite, they talk about the format of the chapter content. It's very well done. And the language, calibrated language for confidence assessment, very high, strong evidence, high, medium, low. So it's it would take days to read the whole thing, I think, if we were going to do that. So we'll move over to climate trends.
It takes a long time to go through.
All right, Jen, take it away.
All right, guys. So the second chapter of this fifth climate assessment report is called Climate Trends. And I'm just going to read the introduction. Earth's climate is changing because humans are increasing the concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere by burning fossil fuels and through other activities. The increase in greenhouse gas is warming the planet and driving other observed climate trends, including increases in the frequency and severity of many types of extreme weather events. Future changes and impacts depend largely on the choices humans make about future greenhouse gas emissions. So, the thing is, their whole take is like, this report is not to make the point that, the climate is changing. The climate is changing. So catch up and understand the climate is changing. And what is our response to that? What can be done? Can there be mitigation? Can there be, all sorts of things? So, right. In this particular section, there are 3 points. Climate is changing, and scientists understand why. So, just very briefly, it is unequivocal that human activities have increased atmospheric levels of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. It is also unequivocal that global average temperatures have risen in response. Observed warming over the continental United States and Alaska is higher than the global average. Long-term changes have been observed in many aspects of the climate system. The Earth system is complex and interconnected, which means changes in faraway regions are virtually certain to affect the United States. So this is a government report. This is a U.S.-centric report.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, point 2, extreme events are becoming more frequent and severe. We've seen that. We cover this like all the time. Like every show or something. Every other show we cover the extreme climate change events. So no shocker here. And point 3, how much the climate changes depends on choices made now. So I guess it's not too long. The more the planet warms, the greater the impacts and the greater risk of unforeseen consequences. The impacts of climate change increase with warming, and warming is virtually certain to continue if emissions of carbon dioxide do not reach net zero. Rapidly reducing emissions would very likely limit future warming and the associated increases in many risks. While there are still uncertainties about how the planet will react to rapid warming and catastrophic future scenarios that cannot be ruled out, the future is largely in human hands. So we'll see. Obviously that's going to cause a big reaction in this crowd. And even I look at that and I say, I wish it was. So that, Sandy, is chapter 2, climate trends from the fifth National Climate
And
Assessment.
they Yeah, and then they, of course, have references, and there's so much.
Yeah.
And I intend to really try to tackle as much as I can. The authors, contributors, recommended citations. But we're going to move on to national topics. And so basically, I went through this and I sent, Jennifer and I, we have our way of working and during the week, and we send back and forth and discuss what we're going to do. And we decided, of course, we were not going to do all 20, as we would be here all night. So we decided to do topics that we talk about that interest us, that we know interest you, our followers, our wonderful followers. And so we start with water. And water is very important. We're always seeing these extreme storms. So the introduction, climate change is intensifying rainfall and floods, deepening droughts, and shifting weather patterns across the globe, causing profound effects on terrestrial freshwater supplies and quality. Rising sea levels, reduced snowpacks, shrinking rivers, and declining groundwater threaten cities and rural communities and endanger forest, riverine, and other ecosystems across the United States. So climate change will continue to cause profound changes in the water cycle. See, now, if you wanted to, we could just keep going and going, but changes to the water cycle pose the risks to people and nature. Alaska and northern and eastern regions of the U.S. are seeing and expect to see more precip on average, while the Caribbean, Hawaii, and southwestern regions of the U.S. are seeing and expect to see less precip, which with medium confidence, which I told you in the beginning, how we measure science, how we measure these things with high confidence, very likely high confidence, all because of the research and the models and all of those things. So heavier rainfall events are expected to increase across the nation. That's high confidence. Warming will increase evaporation and plant water use where moisture is not a limiting factor. Groundwater supplies are also threatened by warming temperatures that are expected to increase demand. Snow cover will decrease and melt earlier. That's high confidence, and much to the chagrin of the skiers. Increasing aridity, declining groundwater levels, declining snow cover, and drought threaten freshwater supplies.
And we talk about all of those things
All of
on
this.
this show.
It's like this report
This is
like
kind of like a down home week for us.
Yeah,
This
it's
is like, oh yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that.
compilation of everything. Water cycle changes will affect all communities and its disproportionate impacts for some. And that's where the climate justice comes in. It's a big thing. Natural and human systems have evolved under the water cycle's historical patterns, making rapid adaptation challenging. Heavier rainfall combined with changes in land use and other factors such as soil moisture and snow, it's leading to increasing flood damage, and that's high confidence. Drought impacts are also increasing, as are flood and drought related water quality impacts. All communities will be affected, but in particular, those on the front line of climate change, including many Black, Hispanic, tribal, indigenous, and socioeconomically disadvantaged communities. They face growing risks from changes to water quantity and quality due to the proximity of their homes and workplaces to hazards and limited access to resources and infrastructure. So basically, you can almost compare this, talking about these different communities, to the COP, where the Loss and Damage Fund is trying to help the islands that are also being affected in the same way. So we need a loss and damage fund for all these different communities in our country. And they're already they're already experiencing all these terrible things. So many of these communities. Progress towards adaptation has been uneven. The ability of water managers to adapt to changes has improved with better data, advances in decision making, and step forward cooperation. However, infrastructure standards and water allocation institutions have been slow to adapt to a changing climate. And efforts are confounded by wet and dry cycles, driven by natural climate variability. Frontline tribal and indigenous communities are heavily impacted, but they lack the resources to adapt effectively, and they are not fully represented in decision making. So it's really, it's just the wealthy people will be able to adapt faster than people in all these different communities, including probably mine. I live in the poorest county in Allegheny, in New York, although we are rural. So we will move on, and you can take ecosystems, Jen.
Okay, guys, so we're going to go through Chapter 8, Ecosystems, Ecosystem Services, and Biodiversity. The summary is climate change is driving transformational changes in many ecosystems, such as reducing biodiversity, shifting the distribution and life cycles of species, and increasing the risk of disease and invasive species. These accelerating changes have profound impacts on economies, sociocultural systems, and human well-being. Equity-driven, nature-based solutions can provide climate adaptation and mitigation benefits, protecting ecosystems and the services they provide. So the main points here is climate change is driving rapid ecosystem transformations. Oh my God, isn't that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Just briefly, climate change, together with other stressors, is driving transformational changes in ecosystems, including loss and conversion to other states, changes in productivity. These changes have serious implications for human well-being. Many types of extreme events are increasing in frequency and or severity and can trigger abrupt ecosystem changes. Adaptive governance frameworks, including adaptive management, combined with monitoring, can help to prepare for, respond to, and alleviate climate change impacts, as well as build resistance for the future. So that is a very, very pertinent point. Number two, species changes and biodiversity loss are accelerating, and that is so true. I mean, this is what causes the extinction of species. That's when species become endangered and threatened and everything like that. So future responses of species and populations will depend on the magnitude and timing of changes, coupled with differential sensitivity of organisms, species that cannot easily relocate, and or highly temperature sensitive may face heightened extinction risks. And in English, that means it's going to get hot and they aren't going to be able to adapt. So they're going to die. And
and it is happening, and we've been watching it and reporting on it, and we talk about the bugs in your car in the cities and how people don't, you drive somewhere and the bugs are not there.
Yeah, the bugs. I
mean,
are
as
gone
simple as that.
Yep. I mean, even from one year to the next, last summer I had bees in my garden, and this summer I didn't have bees in my garden.
You had no bees, Jennifer?
Very, very few bees. And I have, lots of crabapple trees, and they're the kinds that the bees just love. And usually the bees are just caked on it. And this summer there were no bees.
Well, did your plants pollinate? Wow.
Yeah, they did. They pollinated fine, but they're just the bees.
Yeah.
Were not
wow.
there.
I did have bees, but I let everything grow wild here, crazy wild. Mm-hmm. So all the bees were here in all the little flowers. But that, I wonder if also that had to do with the climate where you are this year. Was there anything going on that might have been significant?
Yes. Yes. Well, one of the things is the mosquitoes were very bad. And so they
Ah.
started spraying and they were spraying, and you could hear that truck come by, like, 10 or 11 at night. It's like, oh my God, be sure all the windows are shut. And they spray, spray, spray.
Oh,
And like, because
Jennifer.
they want to kill all the mosquitoes, but they kill everything. They
I
kill
don't
the
like
bees
that.
too.
That's horrible.
It
I'm
is
so glad I
horrible.
don't live in a place where they spray anything except for
Yeah.
manure on the farms. And mostly here it is manure. I don't believe
Yeah.
that they're using a lot of chemicals in this county anyway. That's really
Yeah.
sad.
It is. It's very sad.
And
They
I know
just don't know
everybody.
what they do.
No.
And I get and these people, sorry to rant on like this, but
Rant on. That's what we're here
these
for.
people come by, these vendors, and they're like, they always dress in like these orange shirts for some reason, like, here, bright, happy,
Yeah.
and they're like, I want to spray your yard. Do you have bugs? And I'm like, get out.
F
Never
you.
come back.
Yeah, don't come back. That's like
Yeah.
yeah, they come
And they look at me like, what are you doing? And they were like, well, your neighbor did it. Don't you want to do it too? I'm like, no, I don't use chemicals. I
they're
don't
called
use herbicide. I
Chemlon,
don't
for
use
God's
anything.
sake. Chemlon.
Yeah, they're horrible.
Back in the 90s, I got
Absolutely
talked into
horrible.
doing that in my suburban house when my kid was little. And then I realized that's a big mistake. I can't do that. I have pets, dogs. So I never did it again. You want to read the third one?
Impacts to ecosystem services create risks and opportunities. Climate change is having variable and increasing impacts on ecosystem services and benefit from food production to clean water to carbon sequestration, with consequences for human beings. Changes in availability and quality of ecosystem services, combined with existing social inequities, have disproportionate impacts on certain communities. Equity-driven nature-based solutions designed to protect, manage, and restore ecosystems for human beings can provide climate adaptation and mitigation benefits. And the key point here is that if you're poor, you're going to have disproportionate effects. That's what they mean. Like,
Yes.
social inequities have disproportionate impacts. That's kind of one of the key things to take away.
Big key things. Big key
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim's favorite. But he's not
Yeah.
here. Oceans. Oceans and ecosystems and marine resources. And we picked this because we do talk about this a lot too. Climate change is altering U.S. marine ecosystems in unprecedented ways, leading to shifts in species location, productivity, and seasonal timing. This poses risks to fisheries, tourism, recreation, transportation, energy, and other economic sectors, and also undermines critical connections between people and ocean, especially within indigenous communities. Swift implementation of equity-focused adaptation and mitigation could, and it's could help limit future risks. They didn't say will or may or absolutely will. They said could.
Yeah.
This one I'll go down. We'll just they talk about what we all know about the oceans. Unprecedented climate impacts threaten ecosystems and human well-being. Climate change is significantly altering U.S. marine ecosystems at a pace and extent that is unprecedented over millennia. That's very high. Changes in species locations, productivity, seasonal timing are cascading through ecosystems, threatening critical connections between people and the ocean, especially, again, for indigenous people. Risks to marine ecosystems and the people connected to them will be greater under higher scenarios and will depend on the ability of ecological and social systems to adapt to the pace of climate change. Continued climate change, particularly under higher scenarios, is projected to push many systems toward novel conditions and critical tipping points, beyond which the risk of significant impacts to marine ecosystems, including collapse, is high. Adaptation may be insufficient, and human well-being is threatened with a high confidence.
Right. So it's kind of like they're waking up and smelling the coffee, Sandy.
Big time on this one.
Really?
I mean, now it's only getting people to listen, and we'll talk about that after we get through this and how we do that. Climate change is altering marine-related economic activities, so it poses a substantial risk to ocean-related industries and economic activities such as fisheries, tourism, recreation, transportation, and energy. As climate change continues, economic and cultural impacts are expected to become larger and more widespread, especially under higher scenarios and in communities that are highly dependent on ocean resources. A range of approaches can facilitate adaptation to some degree of climate change, but higher levels of climate change will limit the success of adaptation measures and markedly increase climate risk to marine-related economic activities, which means, if you like sardines, forget it. Tuna fish, forget it. You feed your cats tuna fish, you better prep, and you better buy hundreds of cans now. Our future ocean depends on decisions today. Well, yeah, and stop trawling the bottoms with these horrible machines. Future risks to marine ecosystems, ocean resources, and people will be substantially reduced. By implementing adaptation and mitigation actions now, responding swiftly to climate change will improve, they say will improve outcomes, maybe because they'll improve little by little if we make these changes. Reduce costs, promote resilience and equity, and allow the widest possible suite of adaptation solutions. Impacts will continue to be uneven across communities, of course, with more harmful outcomes in communities that are very highly ocean reliant and historically marginalized, unless equitable adaptation and mitigation efforts are implemented. So, of course, this is all for your, to try. No matter where you live, if you want to be part of this, try to talk to people where you live in the town boards and even people that you never would think would listen. They might, depending on how you do it. And I know where I live, Jennifer, right now, I am going to use this, but we are in a fight because there is a whole big BS greenwashing project potentially they want to drill methane. Now, fracking's not legal in New York. So this guy's saying 6,200 acres in not my county yet, but they want to drill methane and then they want to sink the CO2 into the ground. This is greenwashing. This is lying. This is still burning methane and sinking CO2, I believe, is very dangerous. You're changing the geology of the ground. It's bad enough that we've seen what fracking waste and injecting fracking wells has done. So watch my shows because I will be giving you updates on this because I am going to get active in fighting this. This is just something, it gives me a purpose in my state. We don't want this. We don't want this. How can we keep wanting this shit? So interdependent systemic climate-related risks increasingly affect U.S. interests. And I'm sorry, but we live in this global world, and we're going to talk about this because this is reality. In a globally connected world, climate change impacts on U.S. interests are multifaceted, interconnected, and frequently exacerbated by social unrest and environmental degradation, which is highly confidence. The scale and speed of climate-related impacts to U.S. interests are expected to increase, due in part to underlying interdependencies and to projected intensification of climate change, likely, high confidence. Emerging systems and scenario-based approaches to integrative planning are being applied to account for interdependencies and competing priorities. Jen, you want to take the next one?
Priorities.
The climate change.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Where were you?
Climate change exacerbates risks to national security.
I think you're going to have to.
All right.
I've got it.
You got it?
Climate change exacerbate. I was looking at some other things.
We're
Which
tag
I'll show
teaming
you later. Climate change exacerbates risks to national security. Climate change can contribute to political and social instability and, in some instances, to conflict. It impacts the operations and missions of defense, diplomacy, and development agencies critical to U.S. national security. The U.S. government, bilaterally and in collaboration with international partners, is increasingly addressing these implications through a range of diplomatic, development, and defense responses. And, if you look at all the different agencies that were participating in this, it's very interesting. It's a collaboration of 14 different agencies in the U.S. government. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 14 different agencies in the U.S. government, one of which my dad worked for his entire career,
Wow.
pretty much. And that was USAID, a branch of the State Department.
USAID, it was a good one.
Yeah, trying to bring aid to countries, did have sort of, anyway. So the fourth point, climate change undermines sustainable development. Climate change undermines the world's ability to develop sustainably, reverses development gains, and exacerbates inequities. Climate finance is increasing, but global flows continue to fall short of needs. Accelerated deployment of adaptation and mitigation action scale can yield substantial benefits for sustainable development. Climate action is most effective when co-developed and grounded in equity, local ownership, and inclusive governance. And that is what we have kind of put together,
Yeah.
so it's kind of interesting, all the different
have another one.
agencies that did work together. And USDA, I'm not sure what USDA is. Maybe you know.
Oh, the Department of Agriculture.
Oh, okay. U.S. Department of Agriculture,
Let me see if I can pull that up.
Commerce.gov, which is the Commerce Department, Defense.gov, which is the Defense Department, Energy.gov, which is the Energy Department, HHS.gov.
Health and Human Services.
Okay, thank you. DHS.gov.
Department of Health Services.
Wow, you're good, Sandy. DOI.gov, Department of the Interior. State.gov, all the state governments. DOT.gov, Department of Transportation. EPA.gov, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. NASA did it, NASA.gov. NFS.gov.
Yeah, National NFS. I know NSF is National Science
Foundation.
Yeah,
Okay.
NSF. Yep.
SI.edu and USAID.gov, United States Agency for International Development. So there you go. This is quite a collaboration. And I think that they grouped together they corralled together over 700 scientists to put this report together.
Yep.
So it is interesting. And I did go through the entire thing at a more detailed level. And it does seem that the U.S. carbon emissions has dropped 12% or something. Did you notice that it's actually gone down?
Let me find that. That was, do you remember where that was?
I mean, can't remember,
really
but I remember seeing it.
comprehensive.
It's probably on the front piece, most likely. But it's very interesting because the front piece is pretty huge. And the U.S., the carbon emissions are actually dropping. That's what they say. So that is kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say hopeful, but I mean, if there were, how much percentage did it drop?
It's just comparing, but
okay.
It says China's now the largest single country emitter of carbon dioxide on an annual basis. The United States and Europe have emitted the majority of cumulative carbon dioxide. Of course we have.
So check
and we're
going to
give that a flush. We're giving that a flush. The United States.
Check out that green line of China on the left-hand graph.
Oh,
The
this one.
left-hand one, that
Yeah.
one. Check that out, man. I mean, you can see the US is dropping. And I remember, China kept rolling out these coal plants and opening up new coal plants all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
India is not, even a player compared to China. China's just gone.
whoop. And that's our fault because we gave them all the business to make all the stuff. So they're building
Yeah,
all the
that's
factories
right.
that are
That's
emitting and
right.
belching all the shit. So that's
Yeah.
basically why we create, we create monsters all over the place.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
my country.
That's
I live
right.
here.
Yeah, we we basically get everything from China. So interesting. Oh, the aerosol optical depth. That's very interesting.
Uh-huh. Trends in
So,
aerosol optical death. You want to read
yeah.
it?
I'm not really there right now, and the screen is
Okay,
too.
aerosol pollution over and downwind of the eastern United States has decreased significantly in recent decades, resulting in both improved air quality and reduced cooling effects, which is not good. Aerosols are tiny particles in the air that are associated with respiratory disease. Reduction of these particles means less impact on human health, but these particles also reflect sunlight back to space, thus cooling the Earth's atmosphere. And yeah, reduction
That's
of these.
the whole East Coast thing. It's like
Yeah.
that's aerosol city, isn't it?
Yeah, and decreasing them, and they're saying it right in the report. Decreasing these means less sunlight is reflected, resulting in reduced cooling, and it means it's going to be hotter. And that's
Right.
because they stopped putting all that crap in like ships. They took out the sulfur and all. And it's not like we want to put the sulfur back in, but people are now looking at ways to avert another disaster because we were geoengineering without even realize we were geoengineering. And a lot of scientists talk about this. Yes, absolutely. And so there's a lot of good stuff to look at this, guys, and we're not going to go through the whole thing, but the changes we face are unprecedented. This report has to go out everywhere. And I will say, Jennifer, I did read on the news reports about this. I was reading comment sections, and it was the usual, oh, it's a hoax, it's bull. And I keep thinking about all these people that want to ignore all this, and they really are going to be the cause of our downfall if it does happen. I mean, they are the cause of collapse, the denialists. They really are. The changes, I mean, it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Unprecedented.
They better get caught up with the conversation. Their denialism is just, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be them.
It is.
I would be embarrassed to be them.
I'm going to move us back. We're going to do a couple of comments because this will be in the show notes, the whole article. And we are going to go back here and we're going to talk just a little bit with you guys. We're going to do some comments, and I will say thank you for the super chat. That was from Kristen Rose. Thank you very much. She said, you rock, while showing their pumped bicep. The pumped bicep. Wait, yeah, there's more under here, unfortunately. But I'm doing the firewood, killing my neck. Yeah. Hey, self-effacing humor. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I am who I am, right? So thank you, Kristen, darling. That was very sweet. Very lovely. Now I saved a couple. Obsolete optics. We were worried about microplastics in the clouds now, but where was the concern for Fukushima-derived radionucleotides downward to the depths and up into the jet stream? Yeah, really. Where were we? We were being told that, oh, don't worry, it's okay. It's not okay. Thank you, Obsolete Optics, who runs our Discord, who is wonderful, by the way. And Gary, Gary, Tennessee Jed, you said it. Easy to be glib about this when the wolf is not at one's own door.
Right. True.
Meanwhile,
True.
peaceful activists face prison terms. The criminals are rewarded and caring people are punished. You know what? Can I give you a little applause for that one? Yeah, that was a good one. We
really
love you,
good.
Gary.
Thank
So, we love you, Gary. I always show Gary's comments because, and I always say this, I read his newsletter religiously. He's just wonderful. I'm going to do one more from Gary because I appreciate the article Jennifer and Sandy are sharing, but I continue to be stunned at how anthropocentric and USA-centric the thinking is. This kind of thinking will accelerate extinction. Well, it is a United States climate report. I mean, it isn't the IPCC, but
Right.
I understand. And maybe I didn't go through all of this. There are parts that mention, I mean, we are a global world. It's not just our country. But thank you, Gary. Trulia, everything is moving so fast that it's hard to imagine that anything I do now will make any difference at all. Just waiting for death to show up at my door. Expecting it very soon. Now stop.
No.
Come on. Well, we're going to have to talk. It's not. And any little thing is something. It is. I feel that way. I mean, I try. Listen, a lot of stuff really, really upsets me. Like this. Astrologer. Drill methane? Holy crap. And we have multiple gravel hits here in Tioga County for fracking gravel in PA. And guess what? Tioga's one of the counties. So, Wanda, I'm going to get you involved. And we're going to have to fight this because it's greenwashing bullshit by billionaires that want to build. Billionaires building bullshit. That's what they want to do. And I don't think injecting CO2 into the ground is quite... I don't think it's a good thing at all. We already have problems enough. Do you want to bring earthquakes? Human construction projects are the number one driving ecosystem changes regardless of climate. Yeah, you could say that. I mean, it's pretty bad what we do to the environment, how we destroy the environment. Karen, singing way. Peter Joseph is rolling out a plan for all of us to withdraw our contributions while prop up the dying fossil fuel industry monster thrashing as it dies. Let's hope. But it doesn't look like it's dying. It doesn't. It looks like, yeah, all right, maybe they're trying to keep it from dying, but it's not. All right, let's see. Have I missed any of you guys? Feel free to do any super chats. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Hi, Volt Revolt. Frack this. It's really fracked up. Hell yeah, it is. It's terrible. I hate it. Yes. And... Okay, I will. I'm going to give Letterhack he's got a show at 10 o'clock, and he's reading his book tonight, right? The Letterhack channel, who I do the show on Wednesday nights with, and he's an artist. He probably, if he was here, he probably liked this. Hello, Mark. All right, well, boom. That's that. Jen, I think I can't find all these comments. There's a lot. So why don't you say our parting words for tonight.
And this was a U.S.-centric report, and it's important to know it. But it's ironic because climate change is a worldwide problem. It's not just a U.S. problem. And so for, the first time in history, all the countries in the world would have to cooperate and work together, which, of course, was the intent of the Paris Accord. But, I don't think it's going to happen, I'd hate to say, but, at least people are trying and they're coming up with mitigations to hopefully give us a softer landing in a variety of different aspects. So, for that, I think it's a really good report. I also liked the level of realism, and I really liked that they had the art and the poetry
It was beautiful.
and the videos, and they had this report is just tacked out. You know,
I could have done a whole
too
show
bad
on the
we're
art.
all gonna die, but the thing is, it's a great report. What can I say?
Oh, we have to put that little scoop of doom at the end. We can't get away with that. We just
scoop of doom.
Yeah, we can't. We already we did a flush. So all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. And Tuesday night we have a really good show with Singing Way. I will write it all up. You have to be here Tuesday night. It's interactive. It's a training. You get to play. Okay. Karen is going to do something wonderful. Please be with us. I need as many people to come on Tuesday night here on this channel with Miss Singing Way, Karen. And we rehearsed last night, and it's a fabulous tool, and it's called En-ROADS, and we'll tell you all about it on Tuesday night. And next Friday, Jim will be with me. Jennifer's going
away. I'm gonna go visit the folks.
Yeah. So that, I think it's beautiful. And Jennifer will be going away. And then I'm leaving on the 29th. I'm going to see my mother after I haven't seen her all summer during her cancer treatment. So I'm going. And I'm only going 5 days, but I'll probably do something from Florida. And I hate going to Florida. But it is what it is. I love you, Jen. This was fun. It wasn't depressing. It was depressing in a way to look at the art that the young people did and know that they have grown up in this, which we did not even really know about,
No, it's a different world. Really a different world.
Completely different world. All right, guys. We love you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Peace out. See you Tuesday night.